Chosen one, you are not crazy, you were right about it all, and the liar at the center can't defend what they did. You were manipulated when it felt wrong. Validation is arriving through facts, not feelings, and it will land publicly, cleanly and final. No appeals remain anywhere. You have something this liar can't fake. You possess something so authentic, so genuine, so divinely given, that no amount of performance or imitation can reproduce it. Maybe it's your spiritual gifts, your intuition that cuts through deception like a knife through butter, your ability to see people's true nature, even when they're wearing masks, that natural discernment that makes liars uncomfortable just by being in your presence. Or maybe it's your authenticity, the way you move through the world without apology, how you don't perform for people or twist yourself into shapes to fit in. You're comfortable in your own skin, and that comfort is magnetic. People are drawn to what's real, and you're the realest thing in any room you walk into. This person saw that in you, and it triggered something deep in their broken psychology, because they're the opposite. All performance, no substance, all mask, no face, all image, no integrity. And your very existence exposed that reality. You didn't have to say a word. You didn't have to do anything. Just by being yourself, you held up a mirror that showed them exactly what they're not, so they became obsessed. And I don't mean casual interest, I mean consumed. They started watching your every move, checking your social media, even while pretending not to care about you, asking mutual connections about you while claiming you mean nothing to them, tracking who you talk to, what opportunities come your way, what you're building in your life. It's pathetic when you really look at it. While you were actually living, they were taking notes on you, like you were some exam they needed to pass. But watching wasn't enough. It never is for people like this. They needed to act. They needed to compete with you, even though you weren't competing with anyone. So they started moving pieces on the chessboard. And here's where the story gets interesting, because they didn't come at you directly. They're too cowardly for that. They went behind your back. They started running their mouth, whispering in people's ears, planting seeds of doubt about your character, telling strategic lies to mutual connections, creating narratives that painted you as the villain and themselves as the victim. And here's the sick part. They're good at this. They know exactly what to say to make themselves look wounded and you look dangerous. They understand human psychology well enough to exploit people's love for underdog stories. For a while, it worked. Some people believed them, maybe even people you cared about. They bought the false narrative because this manipulator is smooth. They talk in circles. They're charismatic when they need to be. They perform vulnerability in ways that disarm critical thinking. But here's what I need you to understand about this phase. Even when people believed the lies, even when it felt like you were losing ground, something else was happening that they couldn't see. Every lie they told got recorded, not just by the people who heard it, but in the cosmic ledger. Every manipulation created evidence. Every scheme built the case against them. They thought they were getting away with it, but in reality, they were constructing their own prison, brick by brick, lie by lie, and the door was about to slam shut. Now let me tell you why this worked on you longer than it should have. You're naturally self-sufficient. Life taught you early that if you want something done, you handle it yourself. People who were supposed to protect you didn't show up. People who were supposed to love you weren't capable. So you developed this incredible ability to self-soothe, to problem-solve in the middle of chaos, to find peace when everything around you is burning. That's real power. That's the kind of strength most people never develop, but it came with a cost. It meant you tolerated dysfunction longer than you should have. You made things work that shouldn't have worked. You found harmony in situations that should have sent you running, and this manipulator saw that capacity in you and exploited it ruthlessly. Think about how many times you smoothed over their chaos, How many times you adjusted your behavior to keep the peace? How many times you solved problems that weren't yours to carry? You were walking on eggshells trying to maintain some sense of stability, and they kept demanding more. They wanted you to tap dance on those eggshells. They wanted you to perform while they threw stones and called it love, or loyalty, or family obligation. You did it too, for a while, because you're strong enough to handle it, because you value peace, because you're a natural problem solver. But here's what they didn't understand. Just because you can handle chaos doesn't mean you should have to. Just because you have the capacity to endure doesn't mean you're required to stay. You hit your breaking point. Maybe it was one lie too many. Maybe it was watching them smile in your face after finding out what they said behind your back. Maybe it was the moment you realized you were being asked to betray yourself just to make them comfortable. Whatever it was, you stopped. You pulled your energy back. And chosen one, that's when their whole world started crumbling. See, they didn't realize it, but you were the foundation their dysfunction was built on. Your problem solving was covering their chaos. Your peace was masking their toxicity. Your strength was holding together situations that should have collapsed long ago. You were the load-bearing wall in their house of cards. And the moment you removed yourself, the whole structure started shaking. Suddenly they had to manage their own mess. Suddenly people could see the chaos clearly without you there buffering it. Suddenly the dysfunction they'd been hiding behind your competence was on full display, and they started panicking. Because unlike you, they don't know how to self-soothe. They don't know how to operate in chaos. They can create it, but they can't manage it when it comes for them. But this isn't just about you and the manipulator. Other players are on this board, and one of them is about to become crucial to how this all unfolds. Someone else is in this situation, someone who saw what was happening to you and said nothing. This is the devil's advocate energy. The person who knew the truth but chose silence because speaking up would have required them to take a stand. Maybe it's a mutual friend who didn't want to cause drama. Maybe it's a family member who wanted to keep the peace at gatherings. Maybe it's someone who cared about you but cared more about their own comfort. This person watched you get lied on and stayed quiet. They witnessed the manipulation and remained neutral. And here's what they're learning right now, in real time. Silence in the face of injustice is participation in that injustice. By trying to avoid conflict, they enabled harm. By staying neutral, they took the side of the abuser. Now they're sitting with heavy regret. They can see how things have unfolded. They understand that if they had just spoken up early, so much pain could have been avoided. If they had told the truth about what they witnessed, the manipulator's lies would have been exposed before they could spread. But they chose comfort over courage, and that choice haunts them now. If these words stirred your consciousness, hype this video to help more chosen ones awaken to this. They're going to try to make it right. They're working up the courage to finally tell the truth, to finally stand up for what's right, even though it's coming late. And when they do, it's going to add another piece to the puzzle that's coming together, another voice confirming what you already knew, another witness to the manipulation you endured. But there's something you need to understand about this delayed justice. While their eventual honesty might bring you some validation, you don't actually need it anymore. You already validated yourself. You already decided you deserve better than people who watch injustice happen and say nothing. Their belated courage doesn't erase the fact that they failed you when it mattered most. So when they come with their apologies and explanations, you get to decide what that's worth to you. You're not obligated to welcome them back just because they finally found their backbone. But there's more. A whole group of people believed the manipulator's lies. Flying monkeys who participated in talking about you, who maybe even actively worked against you based on false narratives they were fed. And something is shifting with them right now. They're starting to compare notes. They're realizing the stories don't add up. Person A was told you did one thing. Person B heard something completely different. Person C has another version entirely, and when they put these pieces together, they're seeing they were played. They were used as pawns in someone else's vendetta. They were manipulated into participating in harming someone who didn't deserve it. These people are about to turn. Some are feeling foolish for being deceived so easily. Some are getting angry at the manipulator for using them. Some are experiencing guilt for the judgments they made without knowing the full story. And that shift, that turning, is creating cracks in the manipulator's support system that are about to become fractures. Then those fractures are about to become complete collapse. Some of these flying monkeys are realizing they were exploited. Their emotions were weaponized. Their sense of loyalty was twisted. Their desire to help someone they thought was hurting was turned into participation in actual harm. And that realization doesn't sit well with anyone who has a conscience. Watch what happens when they start questioning the manipulator directly. Instead of getting straight answers, they get deflection. Instead of clarity, they get more confusion. Instead of honesty, they get attacked for not being supportive enough. And each of these interactions is waking them up to the fact that they've been played from the beginning. The manipulator is about to make a critical mistake. They're going to accidentally confess to exactly what they did to you while trying to convince people they're the victim. They're talking to someone, maybe multiple people, going hard on their victim narrative, really selling the story of how hurt they are, how wronged they feel. They're talking fast, gesturing, working themselves into an emotional performance. And right in the middle of all that theater, something is going to slip out that reveals the truth. It's going to happen quickly. Something like, "Yeah, I told everyone what they were really like, but can you believe they won't even talk to me now?" Or, "Sure, I went behind their back, but I had my reasons and now they're acting like I'm the bad guy." They're so focused on being seen as the victim that they don't even realize they're confessing to being the villain. The person listening isn't going to let that slide. Someone is going to stop them mid-performance and say, "Wait, back up. What do you mean you told everyone about them? What exactly did you say?" And suddenly they're going to be faced with specific questions they can't dodge. When you tell the truth, it's simple. The facts don't change. The timeline makes sense. The story holds up under questioning. But when you're lying, you have to remember what you said to whom. You have to keep track of different versions. And under pressure, liars crack. They contradict themselves. They add details that don't fit. They reveal truths they meant to keep hidden. This accidental confession is going to be the thread that, when pulled, makes the whole sweater unravel. People who believed the lies will start asking questions. Stories that seemed believable before will suddenly have holes. And the manipulator will go into panic mode because they can feel control slipping away. But wait, there's more to this confession than just words. This person didn't just spread lies. They did something tangible, something they can't explain away. And in their desperation to maintain victim status, they're about to reveal it. This person is falling apart, completely coming undone. They can't sleep because their mind races with all the ways they might be exposed. They can't eat because anxiety has their stomach in knots. They can't focus on anything because they're constantly waiting for the next revelation, the next person to turn on them, the next piece of their carefully constructed image to crumble. They're experiencing a level of stress they've never dealt with before, and they have absolutely no capacity to handle it. Remember your ability to self-soothe and operate in chaos. They have the opposite skill set. They're excellent at creating chaos for others, but terrible at managing it when it comes for them. They can dish out pain all day, but they cannot take even a fraction of what they've given. Their life is unraveling in multiple areas at once. Relationships are becoming unstable. Their reputation is being questioned. Opportunities are disappearing. Control is slipping. And they can see it happening, but they can't stop it. They're watching their world fall apart in slow motion, and there's nothing they can do. The people who used to have their back are distancing themselves. The allies who used to defend them are staying quiet. The friends who believed every word are asking uncomfortable questions. And instead of taking accountability, instead of coming clean and trying to make things right, they're getting defensive and angry. They're lashing out at anyone who questions them. They're burning bridges left and right. They're making it worse. Some are turning to unhealthy coping mechanisms, drinking more, using substances, engaging in reckless behavior, trying to numb the pain of facing themselves, trying to escape the reality of what they've done and what's coming for them. But you can't run from karma. You can't hide from consequences. You can't drink away truth or drug yourself out of accountability. While they're falling apart over facing a fraction of what they put you through, you survived the full weight of their attack and came out stronger. You endured their lies, their manipulation, their attempts to destroy you, and you're still standing. Not just standing, thriving, growing, evolving, winning. That contrast is killing them. They thought destroying you would somehow elevate them. They believed if they could tear you down, they would rise up. But that's not how it works. You can't build yourself by breaking someone else, and they're learning that lesson in the most painful way possible. Let's get into the specifics of why this liar is absolutely cooked when it comes to defending their actions. Because there's a reason they're scrambling, deflecting, and falling apart instead of simply explaining themselves. They have no defense, none, and they know it. First, intent matters. And their intent was malicious from the start. They didn't spread lies about you because they were confused or misinformed. They created those lies deliberately. They crafted narratives specifically designed to damage you. They knew exactly what they were doing when they opened their mouth to poison other people's perception of you. You can't defend malicious intent. You can only hope people don't ask about it directly. Second, the evidence is stacking against them. Remember those flying monkeys who are comparing notes? Those conversations are revealing patterns. Person A realizes they were told the exact same exclusive secret as Person B and Person C, which means the manipulator wasn't sharing confidential information. They were running a coordinated campaign. That's not someone who got emotional and said too much once. That's someone who systematically worked to destroy another person's reputation. Third, their story keeps changing. When you tell the truth, the details remain consistent because you're pulling from memory of actual events. But when you're lying, you have to remember which version you told to which person, and under pressure, those versions start contradicting each other. People are noticing. 1 week you supposedly did something terrible. 2 weeks later, the story has different details. A month later, entire elements have changed. That's not faulty memory. That's fabrication falling apart. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something. But talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. Rajan Dark, the beauty is you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope, their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your Destiny Engine for $1 today, join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks, and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. Fourth, they overplayed their hand. If you'd actually done something genuinely wrong, they wouldn't have needed to embellish. They wouldn't have needed to involve so many people. They wouldn't have needed to keep talking about it constantly. The fact that they went so hard, so publicly, for so long reveals the desperation of someone trying to convince others of something that isn't true. Real victims don't need to launch campaigns. Real harm speaks for itself. Fifth, their timing is suspicious as hell. Pay attention to when they started this smear campaign against you. It likely coincided with one of your victories, or right after you set a boundary with them, or immediately following a moment when you outshined them in some way. That timing reveals this was never about you wronging them. This was about them feeling threatened by your success, your growth, your light. You can't defend jealousy disguised as victimhood once people see the pattern. You saw things that others missed because you were paying attention in a way others weren't. You weren't just listening to their words, because you were watching their actions. You were noting the inconsistencies, you were tracking the patterns, and your intuition was screaming at you that something was off. You noticed how their stories about you changed depending on who they were talking to. You picked up on how they'd be warm to your face and cold the moment they thought you weren't paying attention. You saw them create drama and then position themselves as peacekeepers. You watched them provoke reactions and then play victim when people responded. You were aware of the manipulation in real time even if you didn't have proof others would accept. And this is what drove you crazy for a while. You could see it so clearly, but you couldn't make others see it. Because manipulators are skilled at looking good to outsiders while being toxic in private. They perform empathy in public. They save their cruelty for moments when there are no witnesses. They're strategic about when and where they show their true nature. So when you tried to explain what was happening, you sounded paranoid to people who'd only seen the mask. But you weren't paranoid. You were perceptive. There's a massive difference. Paranoia is irrational fear without basis in reality. Perception is accurate awareness of what's actually happening. You were reading the situation correctly. You were picking up on cues that others either couldn't see or chose to ignore. Your gut was telling you the truth that their mouth was trying to hide, and now everyone else is finally seeing what you saw all along. They're noticing the inconsistencies you pointed out. They're recognizing the patterns you identified. They're experiencing the manipulation you endured. And they're understanding that you weren't the problem. You were the person who saw the problem first and had the courage to name it, even when no one believed you. While they were running their mouth constantly, making noise, demanding attention, launching accusations, you made a different choice. You chose silence, not the silence of defeat, the silence of strategy, the silence of someone who knows that not every accusation deserves a response. And that silence has been more devastating to their campaign than any defense you could have mounted. Here's why your silence worked so powerfully in your favor. First, it forced them to keep talking, and the more they talked, the more they revealed. If you'd engaged, if you'd fought back publicly, they could have positioned it as a conflict between equals. But your silence made it clear this was a one-sided attack by someone obsessed. They were screaming into a void, and to everyone watching, that looked unhinged. Second, your silence allowed your actions to speak. While they were talking about who you supposedly are, you were out here demonstrating who you actually are through how you live. People saw you maintaining your integrity, continuing to show up with kindness, handling your business with excellence, moving forward with grace. And that consistent demonstration of character spoke louder than any words you could have used to defend yourself. Third, your silence made their accusations seem suspicious. If you'd actually done what they claimed, you'd probably be defensive. You'd be explaining, justifying, making excuses. But you didn't do any of that. You just kept living your life. And people who understand human nature know that innocent people often don't feel the need to defend themselves against lies because the truth will reveal itself. Your comfort in silence suggested you had nothing to hide. Fourth, your silence preserved your energy for what actually mattered. Instead of draining yourself, arguing with someone who wasn't interested in truth, you invested that energy into your own growth, healing, and progress. While they were stuck in the past, obsessing over you, you were building your future. And now the contrast between where you are and where they are, tells a story no words could have told more effectively. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. It was the choice of someone who understands that not every battle needs to be fought on the battlefield your enemy chooses. Sometimes the most powerful move is to refuse to play their game entirely, to deny them the conflict they're trying to create, to starve them of the attention they're desperately seeking, and your execution of that strategy has been flawless. One of the most satisfying aspects of this entire situation is watching the manipulator's mask slip, because they can't maintain the performance indefinitely. The stress of keeping track of all their lies, the pressure of being constantly questioned, the anxiety of waiting for the next exposure, it's all becoming too much. And when people are that stressed, that desperate, that cornered, their true nature emerges. People are seeing sides of this person they never knew existed. The charm is giving way to aggression. The sweet victim routine is cracking to reveal manipulation underneath. The person who seemed so caring is showing themselves to be selfish and vindictive, and each revelation is making people question everything they thought they knew about this individual. You're seeing it too, even from a distance, maybe through mutual connections telling you about their outbursts. Maybe through social media posts that reveal more than they intend. Maybe through the grapevine of people who are shocked by what they're witnessing. The person who tried so hard to make you look unstable is becoming unhinged themselves. The one who called you toxic is poisoning every relationship they touch. The mask is off, and what's underneath is exactly what you tried to tell people it was all along. This is the part where your vindication becomes visible to everyone. Not because you're pointing it out, not because you're saying "I told you so," but because reality is demonstrating that you were right about everything. Every concern you raised is being validated. Every warning you gave is proving accurate. Every boundary you set is showing itself to have been necessary. You're being proven right without having to prove anything. There's been a spiritual component to this attack. Whether it's actual rituals and spells or just massive amounts of negative energy and ill will being sent your way, there's been a concentrated effort in the spiritual realm to block your blessings, disturb your peace, knock you off your path. This person has been working against you in ways that go beyond physical realm, gossip and lies. They've been speaking negative things over your life, visualizing your failure, asking dark forces to interfere, and if they're deep into certain practices, they might have been doing actual spell work designed to harm you. But here's what they didn't understand. You don't fight alone. You're covered by protection that supersedes anything they can conjure. You operate under divine authority that makes their attacks look like child's play. When someone sends spiritual warfare against a chosen one, they're not just fighting that person, they're fighting against the force that governs the entire universe. Every curse they sent hit a wall and bounced back. Every negative word was nullified before it could take root. Every ritual was cancelled by prayers you didn't even know you needed. You've been protected in ways you can't fully comprehend. There were attacks that never reached you because they were intercepted, plots that never manifested because they were dismantled in the spiritual realm before they could materialize in the physical, and now all of that negative energy is returning to them multiplied. This is spiritual law. What you send out comes back, and when you send harm towards someone under divine protection, it comes back even harder. The manipulator is experiencing the full force of their own attacks. The same confusion they wished on you is clouding their mind. The same chaos they tried to create in your life is erupting in theirs. The same blockages they attempted to place on you are manifesting in their path. This spiritual backfire is showing up in their physical reality. Their health is taking hits they can't explain. Sudden exhaustion that no amount of sleep fixes. Mysterious ailments that doctors can't diagnose. Chronic issues that seem to appear out of nowhere. Their mental state is deteriorating. Anxiety attacks, paranoid thoughts, depression that sits heavy. They're experiencing every emotion they tried to inflict on you, but magnified. They're trying everything they know to break this cycle, going to different spiritual workers, trying new rituals, attempting to pray though their prayers feel hollow. Nothing is working, because you can't ask for mercy while holding wickedness in your heart. And based on their character, genuine repentance isn't happening anytime soon. While the manipulator's world is crumbling, something completely different is happening for you. You're stepping into a season of restoration so profound it's going to feel surreal. Everything that was stolen is being returned. Every door that was closed is opening. Every blessing that was blocked is being released. And it's all happening without you having to fight for it, defend yourself or prove anything to anyone. Your reputation is being restored. People who believed lies about you are seeing the truth, not because you had to explain yourself, not because you launched a counter-campaign, but because your character has been speaking through your actions all along. The way you handled this situation with grace instead of revenge showed more about who you really are than anything the manipulator said ever could. People are coming to you with apologies, some genuine, some strategic. You get to decide what those apologies are worth. You get to choose who gets access to you and who doesn't. Just because someone admits they were wrong doesn't mean you owe them a place in your life. Forgiveness is for your peace. Reconciliation requires trust built over time through consistent changed behavior. Your peace is deepening. That heaviness you were carrying is gone. That anxiety about what's being said has faded. That need to constantly look over your shoulder has disappeared. You're entering a space where you can breathe fully, rest without worry, move through life without the weight of someone else's warfare on your shoulders. New connections are entering your life. Divine alignments. People who see you, value you, celebrate you exactly as you are. These might be new friends who become family, romantic interests who actually know how to love you properly, mentors and collaborators who help you build the life you've been envisioning. These people are restoring your faith in human connection. The manipulator is going to watch all of this happen for you, and it's going to drive them even more insane than they already are. They thought destroying you would somehow elevate them, but you're rising while they're falling. You're thriving while they're barely surviving. You're at peace while they're in chaos. And that contrast is the final nail in the coffin of their delusion that they were ever in competition with you. Because here's the truth, they're finally understanding. You were never their competition. You were always operating on a completely different level. They were playing checkers while you were playing chess. They were focused on short-term wins through manipulation while you were building long-term success through integrity. They were trying to tear you down while you were already elevating yourself. They never had a chance. You're not the same person you were when this started. You're wiser about who deserves access to you. You're clearer about your boundaries. You're more confident in your ability to trust your intuition. You're more connected to your power. You're more aligned with your purpose. The fire they meant to destroy you with actually refined you into something stronger, sharper, more valuable. And now you're stepping into a season where everything flows, where the right people, opportunities and resources come to you with divine timing, where you don't have to fight so hard for every inch of progress, where you simply get to be, to create, to love, to thrive without someone actively working against you in the shadows. The liar in your life is absolutely cooked. They can't defend what they did because there's no defense for intentional harm. They can't explain away their actions because everyone sees the malice now. They can't manipulate their way out because people are asking the right questions. Their support system has collapsed. Their reputation is destroyed. Their schemes have been exposed. Everything they built on lies is rubble. And you're standing on solid ground, your integrity intact, your peace restored, your power recognized, your purpose clear. You were right about everything, every suspicion validated, every instinct confirmed, every boundary justified. You're not crazy. You never were. You were perceptive, discerning, and protected the entire time. Their glory days are over. Yours are just beginning, and that's exactly how this story was always meant to end. Walk in your power, own your victory, claim your season. You've earned every bit of what's coming for you, and nothing anyone did or said can take it away from you, because it was divinely ordained before any of this even started. The tower has fallen for them, but for you, you're just starting to build your empire, and this time, nobody's standing in your way. This is your time, this is your rise, this is your glory. Take it all and don't look back.